I can stand before you today and tell you with 100% certainty that the most important part of my life is my relationship with God. Couldn't always say that, though. I probably couldn't even have said that 6 months ago, and I would have never said it 2 years ago or ever growing up. I did grow up in a big church, and I attended their private school, pre-K through 8th grade. I did everything I was supposed to, followed all the rules, never questioning anything because I thought my religion was the only right religion. After all, that is what I've been taught all my life. I followed my religion, but never had a relationship with God. I thought following all these rules is what would get me into heaven. Then I went to a public high school, which kind of shattered my church bubble. I grew away from my church and only attended on holidays out of obligation. I considered myself a good enough person and stayed away from the big sins and figured that would be enough for me. In college, there was quite a big group of Christian girls in my sorority house. I was never part of their group, but they seemed to have something that I lacked, but I never quite understood it. I think hearing those girls speak about how Christ was working in their lives is what planted the seed in my heart. But that seed didn't blossom until 3 years later. I did start to feel the need to get back in touch with or to find my faith in college. I explored a couple different churches on campus, but still nothing really took hold. I just went about living my life, still having the mindset that I was a good enough person. But it was near the end of my first year of teaching that I really started feeling unhappy, despite all the great things I had going on in my life. A great job, a great boyfriend, living rent-free at home, etc. I was constantly stressed out, I was getting in a lot of fights with certain family members, and I just felt like something was missing in my life. The relationships I was in weren't filling my needs. God was speaking to me, telling me I needed Him in my life. I decided to go on a Habitat for Humanity trip that summer, which was the summer of 2007, and it truly changed me. First of all, it was in Hawaii, so the sheer beauty of nature that I was surrounded by really affirmed my belief in God and how amazing He is. Secondly, it was so evident that Christ was living in the people of the community that I worked in and all the other volunteers on the trip. I was finally beginning to understand what faith and being a Christian was all about. I came back from the trip, though, and I thought, I know I've been lost over the years, or lost always. How can I get back? What do I do next? I started the new school year, and there was a new teacher working across the hall from me, Mr. Fernandez, the best social studies teacher ever. I wish he was mine. God had placed this amazing person in my life to help me answer that question. One of the first things I learned about Mario was that he was a strong Christian, so I told him about the experience I had over the summer. He really reached out to me and demonstrated that talking about God and your faith wasn't something you should keep hidden. I never talked about my faith before I went on that Habitat trip. Mario and I would meet at Panera to grade papers, and I would listen to him talk about God and how Christ helped transform his life. I started praying occasionally. But I remember one specific time at Panera when Mario asked me if I was ready to turn my heart and life over to Christ. And just to add a side note, he asked me today as well if I was ready, and it brought me back to that moment at Panera. I thought about it, and at that moment, I could feel the Holy Spirit fill me up inside. I felt so happy and overwhelmed. I remember him saying that there was a party going on in heaven right at that moment. He suggested that I read The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren and gave me a great study Bible and suggestions on how to go about reading it. I started reading and praying every day, and I could feel my heart changing. My mom noticed a huge change in me. My whole attitude towards life changed. I was more patient and loving and a lot less stressed out because I began placing everything in God's hands. It's been about 1.5 years since then, and I have continued to grow a closer relationship with God, and my life just gets better every day, and I know it's all because of Him. Even when things don't go as I plan, the loss of a job, financial hardship, a bad breakup, I can keep it together because I trust that God's plan is being played out. I now know that it doesn't matter how great your life is unless everything in it is centered around Christ. I find so much comfort knowing that the worldly things around us don't matter. Our true treasure lies in eternity with God. I wonder how anyone can truly be happy if they don't know that fact. I wasn't until I realized the truth.